me thank MoveOn for inviting me to be here with you today. All of you know there are many enormously important issues, including the need for Medicare for all, forgiving student debt and making public colleges and universities tuition-free, raising the minimum wage, criminal justice reform, immigration reform, and addressing the global crisis of climate change, among other issues. But there is one issue out there that does not get the attention that it deserves, a very big idea, and that is the need to stop endless wars and to bring the world together to find diplomatic solutions to international conflict. Today, we are preparing to send soldiers to Afghanistan who were not even born on September 11th, 2001. We have spent $5 trillion on the wars that have taken place since, not just in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also in the Saudi-led intervention in Yemen, a horrific war. And now we have some of the same people that got us into the war in Iraq trying to start a military conflict with Iran. We have got to stop endless wars. We have got to cut military spending. Now, recently, I have been attacked because of my opposition to unnecessary wars. I make no apologies as a young man for opposing the war in Vietnam. I make no apologies as a congressman for doing everything that I could to prevent the disastrous war in Iraq. And I am proud right now to have led the effort to get the United States out of an unauthorized, unconstitutional war in Yemen. And let me be absolutely clear, with the Trump administration proposing to send 10,000 troops to confront Iran, I will do everything in my power to stop a war with Iran. It is time to bring our troops home from Afghanistan and Iraq. It is time for Congress to assert its constitutional prerogative and repeal the 2001 and 2002 authorizations that have been used as a blank check to send U.S. troops into harm's way. But it is not enough to just end military interventions. It is time to end the entire policy of endless wars. Using war and militarism as the first and only foreign policy tool has undermined the United States' moral authority, caused allies to question our ability to lead, drained our treasury, and corroded our own democracy. When we end endless wars, we can finally begin to ask ourselves, how do we move toward a global community in which people have decent jobs, adequate food, clean water, education, healthcare, and the housing that they need? How can we band together as a planet and end the absurdity of the rich and multinational corporations stashing over $21 trillion in offshore bank accounts to avoid paying their fair share of taxes in the United States and around the world? And obviously, how can we bring countries all over the world together, dealing with the existential threat, not only to our country, but the world, of climate change? No one country can solve climate change alone. This is a crisis that calls for international cooperation if we are to leave our children and grandchildren a planet that is healthy and habitable. And here is my dream. You want a big idea? Here is a very big idea. that maybe, just maybe, countries around the world today that are spending $1.5 trillion on weapons of destruction to kill each other, maybe we can band together and use that money to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to sustainable energy and energy efficiency and save the planet, and in the process create millions of good-paying jobs. That is my big idea.
There might be a mic on your seat there.
I'm sitting on it. Okay.
There you go. Could be dangerous. Thank you for sharing that. I think you always have a really great way of being able to paint a big picture and show how these issues are all connected. So can you maybe talk about what after 4 years of your new foreign policy, what the biggest difference that Americans would feel in their everyday lives under 4 years of your policy?
The differences would be enormous. Imagine having a president who not only did not understand that climate change is real and causing horrific problems right now, but think about having a president that is reaching out to China and to Russia and to India and Latin America and Africa and people all over the world and saying, you know what, let's stop killing each other. Let's come together for what is a global crisis. America can't solve this alone. China can't solve it alone. Can we use this frightening moment to bring countries of the world together to save the planet for our children and grandchildren? And when we do that, we create millions of good-paying jobs. We cut back on pollution. And at the end of the day, we save money to invest in our kids and our parents rather than just on the military.
Senator, as you know, we asked MoveOn members to submit questions as well, and they can be on any topic. So our first question is from Lillian, a MoveOn member from New York, and she asks, what's your vision for immigration reform? And specifically, what's your plan for Dreamers and DACA recipients?
Let me answer the second part of that question first. Right now, we have 1.8 million young people who have never known any country other than the United States of America as their home. As president, I would move as quickly as possible through executive order or whatever means necessary to make sure that these young people have legal status. And second of all, and here is the good news, and sometimes we lose this thread because of the racism and vulgarity of the current president. But most Americans understand that we need comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the 11 million who are undocumented today. You know, interestingly, you asked that question just yesterday. Just yesterday, I was in Pasadena, and I met with some beautiful young people, and you would be so proud of these young people. Mm-hmm. These are kids who are undocumented, who are not eligible for the DACA program. And they told me and everybody who was there of their fear. Do you know what it's like to worry that if you get into a car and that car is stopped because you don't have a headlight or something, yep, and a police officer comes up to you and says, what is your legal status? Yep. And then at that moment, your life falls apart because you or your parents could be deported and your family separated. There are millions of people in this country living under that fear right now. Incredible stress. So together, and I think this is what the American people want, we're going to end Trump's racism, we're going to end his xenophobia, his bigotry, and we are going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the undocumented.
So I think this will be one of our last questions here. Some estimates show that the past 17 years of the war have cost us over $6 trillion. Meanwhile, the Pentagon budget is at a staggering $716 billion this year. Will your plan also be to include reallocating the Pentagon budget so we can focus on other things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason I spoke to this issue, not to say that there are not so many other issues out there, but very few people are talking about this issue. And I have to say, let's be honest about it. It's not just Republicans who support big military budgets. It's too many Democrats as well. Look, I believe, and I think we need a strong defense. But we have to ask ourselves, do we need to spend more than the next 10 nations combined? And of those 10 nations, many of them are our own allies. Is it, terrorism is a real threat. Al-Qaeda is real, ISIS is real. There are terrorist groups out there. We have to deal with that. But do we really need to spend over a period of years $6 trillion? You know what we could do with trillions of dollars in this country? We can provide health care to all of our people. We can make public colleges and universities tuition free. You know what it means in this country if we substantially reduce student debt for the 40 million people who are carrying that debt, rebuild our infrastructure, create millions of good-paying jobs? That is a lot of money.
Yep.
I mean, even in Washington, $6 trillion is a huge sum of money. And if we can begin reinvesting that money in our own people, we can significantly improve life for millions and millions of our fellow Americans.
Well, thank you, Senator Sanders. Thank you very much for being here and
much.
making the time to be with MoveOn members today. We greatly appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Let me thank you for the opportunity, and let me congratulate MoveOn for the great work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.